everyone. Welcome to YOGO. You only go once. This is episode 2 for our podcast. I am Cheryl Cantafio. I'm here with co-host Eileen Grimes. And today we're going to talk to 2 very special guests. So Eileen, kick it off.
Meet partners in crime, Mary and Cassie Chomyn, the mother and daughter team who voluntarily get themselves into all sorts of shenanigans, including hiking one of the world's tallest mountains without ever climbing anything more than stairs. When they aren't hiking mountains, jumping out of planes, or hanging out of windows, they're just like you and I. Mary is a mom of 3, kept busy by her full-time job and 2 dogs, and Cassie is a college student studying biology in Vermont. Welcome.
Woo! So good to have you.
Yeah, we are so excited to talk about this trip.
Mary and Cassie, share the best trip you've taken and how it impacted your life.
Okay, so I'll kick it off if that's okay, Cass. It was about 4 years ago, and I was just coming out. Well, I shouldn't say all of us, my children and I were just coming out the entail of a divorce. So I'd been married for 25 years and it was coming to a close. So at home, it was really stressful on everybody. Cass, she was 15 at the time. My other 2 were in college. And, it was just, as you can imagine, it's just stressful going through that type of event in the household. And so one day she came home and she's come home from school and she's like, "Hey, Mom, can we climb Mount Kilimanjaro?" I just was like, "Yeah, okay, Cass, no." I'm like, "What is Mount Kilimanjaro?" And she's like, "Oh, it's sort of like the tallest freestanding mountain in the world." I went, "Honey, we don't hike. We climb the stairs. We don't even have hiking boots. Unless you're counting Mount Nittany at Penn State, we don't. We walk around the block to walk the dogs." And so I said no. And so the next week she came back, she went, "Mom, have you had another thought? Can we climb Mount Kilimanjaro?" No. And so after the 3rd time she came back and she said, "Can we try, Mom? Because I really want to do it. Everything we've gone through, I really feel like I need this at this point in my life." And I'm like, "I don't think we could do it. We just don't hike." And Cass being Cass, she went, "Well, how do you know if you don't try?" And I was just like, it sounded like she was talking to me as the parent, as I've always talked to her, you don't know if you don't try. So when she said that, I said, "Oh," and I saw in her face, and everything that was going on, I didn't want to shoot her down again because I really felt like coming back that many times, this was something that not necessarily that I needed. I would have been great with a day at the spa or something to get through, but this was something that my 15-year-old needed. It was more than climbing up a mountain. It was just something I think mentally that she needed. And so I said, "You research it and I'll think about it." And I think she'd already researched it.
Of course.
So from there, we started looking into it. From there, Cass prepared us, I prepared. And I think it was 10 months later, right, Cass? I mean, you can talk about all the preparation and all the details that you went into.
Definitely. I think just to echo what my mom said, it was really challenging. I think especially as a 15-year-old, not only is it stressful at home, but there's a lot of hormones. It's high school. I just needed something outside of my corner of the world to focus on. I knew that my cousin had climbed the mountain as well. And so one of my thoughts, if he can do it, I can do it. Sure, we don't hike, but given enough preparation, we can do it. It was definitely a goal that I needed to set for myself, knowing that if I did it, I knew that I would be able to achieve anything.
Can I ask you a question real quickly on that?
Yeah.
First of all, to come back 3 times, wow.
Right?
You were determined. Yes.
Totally. Did you, was this goal set before you'd even talked to her that first time? That it was just, this is happening, and no matter what, I'm going to keep coming back time and time again. The determination of having someone at that age to know so deeply is amazing. You're amazing. Do you know that?
You guys.
It's true.
I think it was just something, it's those nagging things that just keep coming back at you and coming back and coming back. That was how Mount Kilimanjaro was for me. It was just one of these things that I'm you feel with every fiber of your being, that's what you want to do. And I was let's do it. I think, yeah, before I even went to my mom, I knew come hell or high water, I was getting to Mount Kilimanjaro.
I love it. So Cheryl and Mary, I don't know
Mhm.
that I ever had something that I felt with the fiber of my being in when I was a teenager, let alone my 20s, maybe even. So like that to me is amazing to even like know yourself and to know what that feeling is like. I mean, am I alone in this?
No, that
Okay.
that poll is amazing. Like just hearing you talk about it, Cassie. And Mary, kudos to you, right? I mean, look, you said that you've, jumped out of airplanes too. So I see you. Um, because you saying like we don't even hike, and meanwhile you're like, I'll just jump out of a plane, no biggie.
Right. I'd never been in a plane before I jumped out of it.
Well, there's also that, but that pull must be, Cassie, it must have been so strong that you just went, yeah, it's going to happen. And I can't even imagine like Mary as a mom. It sounded to me like Cassie was like, well, if you're not doing it with me, I'm out. I'm going to go and find some other people that are going to do it with me. So way to go, mom, for going like, I think I better stick with this kid. I think I better stick with her.
And it was such a different experience for both of us on the journey, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But as Cass came back and she's doing all the research, we made sure we went with a reputable company, and not just a reputable company that took care of the people hiking, the tourists, but people that took care of their own people, because that was important to us too. We heard so many where, the people taking you up the mountain were not well taken care of, and that was something we didn't want to entertain. We want it to be holistically a good experience, regardless of what it costs. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
When Cass started coming back with all the research, like that's all she focused on, like after school and whatnot. And she'd be come back, and I come home from work and there's a picture on the board of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
And there's like all these details. And the closer we got to it, we started going to the gym, started like the cardio. It was a little bit more difficult for me. Cass was a travel soccer at the time, so it was a breeze for her. But for me, I'm like huffing and puffing at the gym, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? So far, I'm like going to the gym every day, which is, in itself, it's not a bad thing. It's great. But then she's talking through all the details. She's like, yeah, it's like 5 days up, mom, and a day and a half back. And I went, okay, not too bad. Yeah, but there's no toilets and there's no showering, and you eat whatever they give you. And I'm like, okay, no toilets, no showering. No, literally, we're in the tent. We were using baby wipes to wipe down every inch of us, like in the morning. You gotta visualize me laying in a tent on the side of the mountain, asking Cass to stand outside, and I'm literally butt naked, like myself on baby wipes. And I'm like, what is going on here? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I knew why I was doing it.
So Cassie, I really appreciate that you gave the soft sell. Because it's, clearly it was like, hey mom, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be awesome. By the way, you're going to be stinky, and good luck with the food situation. And there's probably holes for different things to go to the bathroom for 1 and 2. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I love this story so much. Can you take us to when you actually got there day one and what it was like to actually be there and to realize like, oh my God, I'm doing the thing. Can you walk us through that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, one, like going to Tanzania was like such an experience in itself, just because like I'd never been there. And it's like I'd been to England. My mom's from England and such, but Tanzania was just amazing in itself. But I didn't actually arrived a few days earlier just to get used to the time difference and to sleep off the travel, which is something I'd really recommend that people that are considering this trip do, because it really helps with like the jet lag and just feeling refreshed before the trip. But it didn't hit us, at least it didn't hit me, that we were actually climbing the mountain until we loaded up the bus. We met all the guides. All of our stuff is on top of a bus, and like we're 20 minutes outside of town. And then they point over to the right and they're like, oh, there's the mountain. We look over and it's like, we see a tree, we see some grasslands, and we're like, where is it? And in the faint far distance, above the clouds, you just see this white capped mountain, and it's like, oh shit, climbing that. It's like the pictures made it seem so much smaller. And it was like, it became so real then. And it was like, oh shit, like we made a mistake here. I'm like, oh, like we're here. Like we're literally on the bus there to the base camp. So that's when it got real. That's when it was like, we're doing this. If you arrive at base camp, you actually go through like a few different climates when you go up from the bottom to the summit. So you start off in the jungle. So that part was like really amazing because it was very lush, very green. You had monkeys coming around.
Wow.
It's like the rainforest,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Cass? It was the rainforest. It was amazing. Yeah. Monkeys jumping around in the trees. And it's just mud steps. You're actually walking up some mud steps to begin with, but you walk incredibly slow. Like it's not a regular hike that you're thinking of. You're really walking like at a snail's pace. And what was the saying that they would say?
Slowly,
Slowly. So we did that. And then as you go up, so you'll hike anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day, taking breaks in between. But what they do is we took the longest route. There's different routes that you can take on this journey. It depends on what you sign up for. Some people may have done it before, may not, but they want to get to the top as fast as possible. They say that's the lowest success rate to go the fastest route. So we took the longest route just to allow our bodies to acclimate to the elevation. And so what they do is they'll hike you up, but then you'll come back down almost like in a zigzag all the way up to the top. And what that's doing is you're hiking high and then you're coming low, and that's where you camp for the night. And that allows your body to acclimate to the elevation, because the higher you get, the harder it is for some people, not all, to breathe. And so they'll check your oxygen every day and do all that. So yeah, it's like a zigzag up, hike up, then come back down, sleep. Next day, go a little bit further, zigzag down, sleep there. So that was kind of the journey up. But I remember the first night that we camped. It was, like I said, it was a different experience for a mom, for me versus Cass. Like, here's me taking my just 16-year-old daughter to halfway across the world. I'm like, okay, no problem. We can do this. And then the first night we pull up, and I think just because when we were picked up, it was 7 of us that were doing the hike. But then we had like the guides and the team that, carried all the tents and the cookware and everything else. I think they had a team of like 27.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they were amazing. So I'm like, okay, I was a little nervous when I first got on the bus, just being that protective. This is my daughter, I don't know anybody. But then they were talking and they were lovely. And then we got to the base camp the first night, and there's like 200 people, because there's all different companies going up at the same time.
Oh.
Okay.
So you're all camping out all together.
Got it.
It got a little bit more real for me, because I'm like, at night time, it's the first night you're out in the dark. And Cass, if she went to go to the bathroom, I'm like, not going by. Sorry.
Yeah, what's the problem?
Some pictures along the way, stroke the monkeys. And I'm like, no, you're not. And then, we learned how to use a drop toilet that night.
What is this? I don't know.
I don't know what that is either.
Go ahead, Cass.
So there's different facilities. There's some that are cleaner facilities and some that aren't. But for the first night, it was just this, it was a building, and you had little doors, like little stalls, almost like as if kind of like a European bathroom. All the doors, it's not like an American restroom. You can see the feet. It was like more of the European style. So you walk into the little room, and then there's just these 2 blocks of wood on either side of a hole. So what you need to do is you put your feet down on the blocks of wood and just squat yourself and use the bathroom. And meanwhile, it's a 30-foot drop of sewage. And like, if you've never used one, you're like, how do I use this?
Yeah.
I actually wrote one of my college essays on it, about how to use it. And hopefully that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, I remember the first time that night I tried to use one. Yeah, it was
tried.
It was not a pretty sight, let me tell you, because Just having hiked, my thighs were already hurting. And then to put a foot on each side, I was afraid of falling in, to be honest, knowing that it was like a 30-foot drop.
Gotta be honest, that was my first thought. That was my first fear. Yep.
Yeah. And that's going through your head as you're trying to relax and go to the bathroom. And so I think, to be honest with you, I think I put a plastic bag on each of those blocks and I sat down and then I was afraid of falling in. And then my door wouldn't close. So I think someone came in. They got more than what they paid for. Oh.
That was all day one.
And then, and I'm just like, oh, and that was the first day. If this is, how this trip's gonna go, oh my gosh. You soon quickly get over it. You just adjust because you have to. It's like, I'm here, I can either be scared the whole time or I can just enjoy it as much as I can. So you just adjust. Obviously, making some mistakes on the way.
Gosh, there's so many good life lessons. I mean, right?
Yes.
Just adjust. There's no giving up. Going the fast route is a higher likelihood of failure. Going slowly.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right? And that's just from day one.
That was just day one. Yeah. From there, you just hike to the next day, hike to different bases. Every day got a little harder more so because of the elevation, not so much of the hiking, but the elevation for me personally was a little tougher. I mean, I know by like day 3, it took me literally, and I like to eat, but it took me like 30 to 60 minutes to eat one granola bar.
Oh, wow.
Because it was just tougher. And they made you full meals. They wanted you to eat a lot of carbs. So we had a cook that cooked every day for us. They set up a mess tent and there's tables and chairs for everybody. And they're cooking full meals for you. You can't tell until you're there how it's going to impact you, whether you're going to be okay. And some people were perfectly fine. And others, it just hits you. I remember throwing up a few times on the way. I'm embarrassed, and the guy comes over and he just shoves all the dirt over it with his foot, pats me on the back. He went, "You okay to go now?"
So, Mary, I just went paragliding recently, and I barfed, and it's on video, so it's like all the things. Like, great, this is cemented now for life in video format. I am so sorry. I just know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And then, Cassie, how did it hit you? Were you okay through it, or what was your kind of experience?
I was actually surprisingly really fine, but I think a lot of it was I was just so excited to be there. It was like I was living out my dream, to be honest. It was like something I had thought about that trip for months. So like to actually be there, I was psyched. I was so excited. And so I think, like I said, like my mom and I had different experiences. And granted, like I'm coming from a 16-year-old perspective, but it's like I slept like a baby. I ate as much as I could. I didn't have any issues with that. Like I've been playing soccer for years. So I think the altitude just didn't impact me as much as it impacted some other people on the trip as well.
I have all the questions. I know Cheryl does too. I just So from the trip, I mean, I know there's so much, in preparation and everything you did. What either changed, or how did you see each other through this whole experience, and how did that shape the relationship you have now? Did it, or how do you kind of see each other from having experienced this whole thing?
I'll let you go, Cass. I think it probably impacted you more. You saw a lot more of me.
I think something that I also saw throughout the divorce as well, but also on this trip, was just that my mom was a person, which maybe sounds like really silly, but it was a great opportunity to see my mom as a person and not just as a mom. I saw her in a different dimension. I think you're kind of just like an older version of myself. And I think by seeing my mom through that lens, I'm now able to see other people as like real people, as I put in air quotes. I think sometimes you think like either they're so much older than me, they know so much more than I do, or like I'm so much older than them, I know more than them. I think I don't have as much of a barrier, maybe that's the wrong word, but I think that restriction that sometimes people will put onto others by giving them roles or by labeling them with age or profession, I don't think I have as much of a restriction. Again, I think it all started with my mom and seeing her as a real person.
I mean, I don't know, as a mom, Mary, just even hearing that, I have my own 2 kids, right? And you're like, oh wait, that's right. I have this whole like persona of not a person. I'm mom, right? I mean, hearing that, what does that kind of make you feel or think about?
I know when Cass said it to me after the trip, obviously we'll always remember, but we're constantly reminiscing about it like it happened, a little while ago. And when Cass said that to me, I felt so grateful as a mom, as a person, because we had been through so much. And I think as a parent that and I'm going to say it that way, puts her children through a divorce, with her, with me, it's very stressful. And you want it to be as, I know easy is not the right word because it's never easy, but you want it to be as calm and peaceful as you possibly can, amicable maybe. But regardless of what you do, it's always very, very stressful. And I think I'll speak for myself, we put a lot of stress on my children that I never wanted to. So to hear Cass say that she saw me as a person, not as a mom, it was really heartfelt. And I think that changed our relationship because then I saw her not as my little 15-year-old begging me to take her to Mount Kilimanjaro, but like a really mature young lady that had so much beyond her years perspective on life, on people. I think that trip, as much as in the beginning I didn't want to do it, I think it was the best thing I could have ever given to Cass, but given to us as a mother and daughter. Yeah, because I think it created a bond that I don't know if we would have got there if we hadn't have taken that journey together.
I speak personally when I say if I had to choose between a divorce, which I've also been through, and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I'd probably climb the mountain because
Right.
it is not an easy process at all. I think it's wonderful that you found purpose in something that was, Cassie, for you, it was a pull, right? It felt like a pull that you wanted to go. And Mary, it seems to me like you found purpose and enjoyment in it after all the, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? It's also fascinating to me that it took 5.5 days to get up and a day and a half just to get down. How do they figure that math out? Because that to me is fascinating. I mean, are you just like tearing down the mountain once you get up there?
Full
What's that? Just parachute down. You just parachute down.
No, you come down the other side of the mountain, and I guess when you're going up, because you're zigzagging and you're camping overnight, and you're only walking for like 3 hours, and then going to camp and staying there overnight. That's the journey, and coming down, it's just straight down.
Gotcha.
Back down to a base camp where you stay, sleep, and then head back down the rest of the time. Right, Cass? That's how I remember.
Yeah, and also, it's just kind of a straight shot. And also, like with summit night, it's just to explain summit night a little bit.
Yeah, tell us about that. I want to hear about.
Yeah, I know. I totally missed this step. I'm like, I was already down the mountain. I'm like, you made it great. No, tell us about what it's like at the summit. Yeah,
for the
please.
Summit night. So you've just been camping and hiking for like several days now, and then you finally get to the final spot before you're able to go to the top. And you actually start hiking at 10 p.m. There's a few reasons. One of the reasons is because as you get closer, the weather becomes really unpredictable in the middle of the day. So they don't want you arriving when the weather gets really unpredictable. And just like when it gets really windy or there can be precipitation, they want you up and they want you down in basically like the fastest and safest possible time. That's one reason. But another reason is it's really steep as well. It's like, I think you do like 4,000 in elevation, which is, you're starting at 16,000. I believe you're starting at 16,000 feet above sea level. And then you go all the way to 20,000 feet in elevation. And when you're at 20,000, to my knowledge, that is 50% of the amount of oxygen that you receive at sea level. So that in itself is, your body feels it. It was actually amazing to feel that. Especially coming down, but this
summit night.
So you start at 10 p.m. You're fed cookies and coffee and tea and hot chocolate, and then you put on your headlamp and you start hiking up.
It's so dark. That's why you wear the headlamp.
Yeah,
just stars, no light pollution. It's just dark. It's like a pilgrimage. It almost felt like. Everyone headlamps on and it's gone 10 p.m. at night and you're just starting to climb up these rocks. at night, and all you see in front of you and behind you is just a headlamp, just a line of headlamps, because all the people are traveling up this pilgrimage to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, starting at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Go ahead, Cass. Yeah, just wanted to mention that.
And I think that's a really cool experience though as well, because you travel through the night and it takes 7 hours to get to the top, and you can't see the top obviously just because it's so dark. It's like you're just trudging up, and then eventually the sun starts to rise. It's just such a feeling. It's so hard to explain what that feeling is like, but it's almost like you made it. It's like, it's kind of like that first glimmer of hope. Is how, if I had to put words to it, it's like that first glimmer of hope, and you're like, oh, the sun is rising. And so then you keep trudging up a little bit more, and then you get to, there's 2 peaks. It's like 200 meters just before the summit, but you stop there, and then when you're walking from that peak to the very top of it, it's like you're in another world. And like, it's such a transformative journey, because like I said, you can't see where you're going for 7 hours. You're just hiking up, and then the sun rises, and you feel like you're on the moon. It's like you see glaciers, the clouds are way below you. It's like also like your sense of time is distorted as well. You're like, how did I get here? And it's just one of the most amazing feelings.
You don't get to stay there that long either, right? For the whole journey.
And also that's because like the oxygen is so low. They don't want people to stay up there, because that can cause health issues if you stay there for too long. So you go there, you get to the top, you take a picture, and then you start walking back down again. I think for someone who was dreaming about it for months on end, it's such a sense of accomplishment that has definitely fueled my sense of belief in myself, like my self-confidence. It definitely has made me believe that if I can do that, I can do anything.
What's amazing right now is that no one who's listening is going to be able to see this, but as you're saying it, I can see it. It is It is coming out of you as you're talking about it. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that one moment, or I'm sure there's many through the trip, but that one really changed something deep in you. It is emitting all out to every one of us, I think, that's watching right now. No one's going to hear that necessarily from what you're saying, but me seeing it, like, I'm getting goosebumps just even looking at how much this really meant to you and how much that changed you.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's like, it meant the world to me for sure. Yeah, it's still like, I still get excited even like 4 years later thinking about it.
And then you just roll down the hill.
It just go.
I actually found coming down to be actually really challenging, because it was almost as if you were skiing. There was really loose gravel in the sense that like your feet would sink in. And as if it were snow. And there wasn't really a way to stop either. And it's like, you've just been hiking for 7 hours and now you have to come down. So your legs are a little bit gassed, and yet you still can't stop. At one point, like, you either had to keep going with the momentum or you were going to end up rolling off. It was actually really surprisingly challenging to come down. Do you have anything, Mom?
No, I just agree with coming down. It's steep and loose. You really have to watch your footing to where you are. But I think even just on the trip, right, talking about challenging, I think one of the most challenging parts for me of that trip was when we had to climb. I think it was like day 4. And as we turned around, I can't say corner, but as we turned in part of our journey, we had to climb up this side of this mountain. So just to give you a visualization, they say that it's like 3/4 of the height of the Empire State Building in New York City. Whoa. And so when we turn this corner, you just see this side of this mountain and you're like, it's in the distance, okay. And then the guides start pointing, and when you start looking, you start seeing these little insects crawling up it, and those are people. They're like, we're gonna climb up that. And I'm like, how are we gonna do that? He said, you're just going to listen to us. There's no guardrails, there's nothing. So you're literally just starting to climb up, sometimes on your hands and knees, rock by rock. And their advice is, don't look down. So So we start climbing up and we said, well, if we don't want to do it? And they said, we can turn back, but we're already day 3 or day 4. So might as well keep going. And so you start climbing up this rock, and the guides are just, all the support team, they're climbing it like it's going up your stairs in the house. But for us, it was hands and knees, and just you're getting higher and higher. There's no guardrails. And like I said, it's 3/4 of the height of the Empire State Building. And there's one part that they call the Kissing Rock, Cass? Is it the Kissing Rock? And what that is you get almost to the top and you have to cross this piece of mountain, but there's a huge gap. If you stand and stretch your legs as far as you can, that's what you have to do. And there's nothing beneath you. And you literally have to kiss the rock. That's how close your face has to be against the rock to cross over. So the guide crosses over first and they say, don't look down, kiss the rock and give me your hand. And so you're leaning there and stretching your legs as far as they can. You give your hand, they give you a quick pull, and you just go with it. So when you're across it and you look down, it's like you can't believe you just did it, because if you miss,
you're going down.
Story. Yeah.
That's actually where a lot of people do get injured, or unfortunately, or more unfortunate circumstances.
But that's called the Kissing Rock. Did you go fast before me? I don't remember. But Cassie's like, yes, let's go. And I'm like, holy crap. Again, what did I do? Yeah, for me, that was probably one of the most challenging parts of the trip, was that Kissing Rock. I'll never forget that.
My goodness. We talk about fun over fear, but that was just fear over fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, really was. That was more challenging for me than coming down.
Wow. I love that this is ingrained as part of each of your story, right? Because it could have stopped. You could have been a child of divorce. You could have been a married divorcee, and it could have just stopped there, right? But you are 2 women who freaking crushed Mount Kilimanjaro. You became part of that very special community. And that's such an amazing, I don't know how else to explain it. It is such an amazing part of your story. As Eileen said, you can see it in you, right? There is that spark, and people, I would imagine you have people that naturally gravitate toward each of you. And my guess is you have this little bit of mystery inside of you that says, yeah, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, beat that. What an amazing experience for the both of you. I think this is so cool.
Yeah, it really was life-changing.
This podcast really is about YOGO. You only go once. You both took this huge leap into doing something, whereas so many people don't get up from the couch to do the 5K that they have always wanted to do, or they don't take that art class that they've always really wanted to do and were too afraid to do it, or whatever that may be. What is the one piece of advice from this experience that you each would want to give other people listening to just go for it?
Yeah, I'm going to tell a quick story beforehand, just to give it some context.
Yeah.
This was one of my other favorite. Obviously, like the summit was such a memorable moment and such a feeling of accomplishment. But this other moment was something that has really changed my life, to be honest. And it happened before the summit. It's really given me a perspective on life that I don't think a lot of people my age do have, or maybe like even older. But just to cut to it, so I think it's day 3. It's nighttime. I'm about to go to bed. I think it's like midnight, to be honest. And my mom's like shaking me in the sleeping bag. She's like, I have to use the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, like go use it. Like I'm trying to go to bed here.
You can do it, Mom.
You can do it. He's like, will you come with me? And I'm like, what? I'm like, just use the bathroom. Like, it's all good. I thought in that moment, I was like, if it were me and I asked my mom to come with me to the bathroom, I was like, she would do it. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like, she needs it. She needs it. Who am I to question? So we go outside and I'm waiting for her to use the bathroom. And it's cold. It's like everybody else is asleep. You can faintly hear the radio, like a soccer game actually going on, because some of the people are still up. They're probably just relaxing, listening to the soccer game. And I'm just shuffling my feet. And then for some reason, I just look up. And it was honestly the most beautiful night sky I've ever seen in my life, because there's no light pollution. There are just thousands of twinkling stars in this deep indigo sky and a violet streak going through it. It took my breath away. It was just like one of the most beautiful things I've seen. And it was in that moment that I realized that, oh my God, this is real life. Like, this is actually happening. Like, I'm actually in Tanzania climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. This is in real time. Life is not a game. We don't get another chance at life. And it was just such like an overwhelming feeling that it was just this overwhelming feeling that this was real life. And I think, I don't know if that sounds maybe silly to other people, but I think we get so wrapped up in our day-to-day life and our own corner of the world and just like trivial things that are happening on an everyday basis that we forget about the bigger picture and that we're here once in this body. And to not take advantage of that and to not realize that you're not going to get a second chance at life. You're not, maybe whatever religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs you have, you're not going to get another chance in this body. So to not live it to the fullest potential is just such a missed opportunity. I think to give advice, it was just realize that this is your one opportunity at life in this body.
So just do it.
Nike, I'm sorry, we did not steal that. Right. That was Cassie and Mary. Very clear.
It was, yeah. For me, I don't know how I'm going to top that, because that's Cassie's mantra every time we talk about it, and that's how she's lived her life since that journey. Like, everything she does is based on living her life to the fullest. I mean, she went on to jumping out of planes after that trip, and every year, like, her whole life is, how can I live my life to the fullest? That's how she lives every day. For me, maybe from a different perspective, going through a divorce and having children and still continuing, we can get so wrapped up every day, but maybe just an older generation, we get a little comfortable with working hard, coming home, sitting on the sofa, thinking about all the things that we want to do, but we never end up doing it. I say you just got to take every opportunity and just get up and do it. I think otherwise you're going to regret it. And even the things that may seem impossible, as I thought this trip would, I thought there's absolutely no way that we could accomplish that. And I was so wrong, so wrong. And I think it is and will always be one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, because not only for my daughter, I feel, which was a gift, as you can hear, for her, as how it's catapulted, the rest of her life for her. It was something that she needed, but also for me, you just realize you can do the impossible, however big or small it is. You just have to, like Cass said, how do you know unless you try? You just got to go for it. Don't waste your time. Don't think you can't. Don't think it's too expensive, because at the end of the day, it's the experiences that we do take the chances on are the memories that we remember for a lifetime. And a lot of times it's those experiences that shape us going forward in our lives. Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I think this conversation will live rent-free in my head for a really long time. Mm-hmm. It's just been amazing. So Eileen is generally the person, Eileen is like my Cassie. She's generally like, this is happening, just go and do it. And I'm like, that's fun. Oh, we're doing this. And we just go and we do things. So I'd like to close the conversation by asking you, what is your next this is happening thing? I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to top jumping out of planes and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. But Cassie, you're obviously in college now. Mary, you are life 2.0, right? So what's on your this is happening list? What's next?
Well, I think actually over the summer, my brother and we actually drove from Alaska back down to Pennsylvania, and we camped for like 3 weeks.
Wonderful.
We almost got eaten by bear.
With a check engine light on for over 4,000 miles. and the wrong tires on the truck, but
It's fine.
they made it. Yes, they made it.
So that was a trial run though, because just to see if my brother and I could get along for that amount of time and like that close quarters, because we're actually going to Southeast Asia for 30 to 40 days in May. So we're visiting Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. So that's
amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. This is happening.
Do we speak the language? No. Are we going to do a lot of research? Absolutely. And that's happening May 2023.
Oh my goodness. We're going to have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure. I think I'm planning on jumping out some more planes next year.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I think so. And I think I might get some advice from you, Eileen. I want to do the hang gliding.
Oh yeah. I mean, Dramamine if you have any stomach issues. So worth it. Would do it again. We'll talk for sure. But yeah, it was worth doing it just in the freedom of that jump. I can't describe it. Cassie, just like you were talking about getting to the top, getting off, just jumping off a mountain, all be fine.
Right? Yeah, it is.
But there's freedom in it. There's something freeing and really cements you in that aliveness, right?
Yes, it does. It is.
That moment of, oh shit, I'm really here.
Yeah.
I could really die. Right? But yeah, there's something beautiful about that. And the mortality starts to come in but in just such a great way. So yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah. And if you want to jump, I'll take you. Or Cass can take you.
All right.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Cass jumped from 14,000 feet on her 18th birthday.
Wow.
I'll meet y'all on the ground with hot chocolate at the ready. Okay.
Great. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Cassie and Mary, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing this amazing story. I will say Kilimanjaro is one of the things that I do want to do. That is on my This Is Happening list at some point. So we'll have to talk later on some of the logistics and training stuff. But I am thrilled to pieces that you are here and you had the chance to share this with us. And I just hope that, with all these conversations that we're going to have, other people can hear just taking those moments to say, you know what, I'm a little terrified that this is happening and I'm going to do it anyway. And taking that chance to really live our lives in the way that we want to, the way that we choose to, and move forward it's so inspirational to hear those who've been through it. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
I could have done another 4 hours with you, to be honest. Like, there's so many other questions, but I know y'all have lives and you need to, go places and things like that. But thank you for choosing fun over fear and living your lives and really embracing everything that this podcast is about, which is you only go once, and y'all went for it. Thank you for your time and sharing that story with us. It's fantastic. Thank you on behalf of Eileen Grimes and myself, Cheryl Cantafio, Mary and Cassie. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, everybody, you only go once. Take care.